Welcome to the third and last out of 3 episodes of 10 Years of C64 Gaming Part 4, covering year 1985. After this, we're gonna jump straight into 1986. I've done my intro in the first video already, so without further ado, let's get on with it. Rescue on Fractalus is a first-person 3D vehicular shooter. You're in control of the Valkyrie space fighter and have to fly around various planets, landing on them and saving stranded pilots. When plenty enough are saved, you have to return to the mothership to move to the next planet. It would be pretty easy though if that was all, but all of the planets are heavily defended by the so-called Jaggies. There are numerous anti-aircraft guns and also flying saucers that attack you. So you're destroying this all as much as you're saving lost souls. Your ship is equipped with compass, altimeter and scanner to help you locate stranded pilots and save them. And you best master use of this soon, as when the nighttime missions will start, these instruments will become crucial not only for saving others but also for your survival. In the far-off future of mystical year 2010, where there are no longer any wars in the world, all disputes are settled with a game of Rocketball. On one hand, it's silly to resolve anything really with Rocketball, on another, I wouldn't mind world without conflict and war. Rocketball is a futuristic sports game viewed from a side at a slightly elevated angle, and can be played by 1 or 2 players. While the viewpoint is from the side, the arena is circular with an opening at the outer side of it. All players from both teams constantly skate leftwards, trying to throw the ball into that opening. And the team with most goals after 10 minutes wins the match. It is possible to tackle the player holding the ball, so it should be done when possible to gain advantage and control of the ball. While video footage may not really give it away, Rocketball is really fun and one of the very few sports games that I genuinely enjoy. Invaders of the Lost Tomb, aka Scarabäus, is a first-person 3D adventure game with a 90 degrees movement. Your aim in the game is to find the ancient treasure of Scarabäus, a jewel in the shape of a dung beetle hidden inside the tomb. On your way, you'll explore puzzles that will reveal which of the 2 vials found along the journey can be drunk, and which will prove poisonous. And since you entered the tomb poisoned already, you have to solve those puzzles to drink the antidotes. Other than that, the game is divided into 3 maze-like floors, each with different set of objectives. On the first floor, you have to collect 9 pieces of hieroglyphs from the mummies before venturing to the next one. If you're not gonna secure all, the next set of puzzles is impossible to solve, so keep that in mind. On second floor, you have to decipher puzzles hidden in the alcoves using the hieroglyphs collected in the first. There's 13 alcoves to complete and they are guarded by spiders, which should obviously be avoided. On the last floor, there's a pharaoh's tomb in the center and 12 alcoves. Each of them contains vials of medicine or poison, and on this floor you're chased by zombies that you have to avoid or trap, and it's where the last puzzle is present before completing the game. Now, if I haven't seen the game and just heard all this, I would have thought that whoever said it is insane. So yeah, do whatever you want with this. Shadowfire is an adventure role-playing game with a very aggressive time limit of only 1 hour and 40 minutes to complete. You're leading a so-called Enigma Force team of 6 unique mercenaries, and you have to rescue Ambassador Cryx from the traitor Zov's flagship before he discovers the secret plans for a new type of a spaceship. Each of your characters has a different set of abilities. Silky is an insectoid and a strong fighter. Zark Montor is a team leader and is an expert in unarmed combat and the only translator in the group. Severina Maris is the only one who can pick locks. Torik is an avian specializing in explosives and fastest moving character out of all in your team. Mole is powerful but slow combat droid, and Manto is weak droid but the only team member that can operate the transporter that is crucial to mission success. Controls are icon based and you have to utilize all skills of your team members to be able to save the ambassador and capture Zov within given time. Shadowfire is one of the most original games of the whole 8-bit era, so if you like unusual titles, this one's as interesting as they come. Silent Service was designed by now legendary Sid Meier, who fathered many series of beloved games. It's a submarine simulation set in the Pacific Ocean during World War II, with player controlling US sub and patrolling the area. It's also one of the very best submarine simulations on C64. By today's standards, or even comparing it to the sequel, it's pretty simplistic, but this fact made it infinitely more playable than it would have been otherwise back then, to the players unfamiliar with advanced military simulations. That said, difficulty could be raised quite considerably to suit players' skill level if needed. Graphics-wise, it's pretty decent on Commodore's Little Beast. It's nothing to write home about though, but for a simulation, simple strategic view with all controls in plain sight is easy to understand during those high-pressure, adrenaline-fueled battles. So, it's perfect presentation to a near-perfect game. 6-Gun Shootout is a turn-based strategy in a western setting, an unusual mixture that can be enjoyed by up to 2 players on a single system. It features 10 scenarios, half of which are based on historical situations and other half on entirely fictional ones. like 1959's Rio Bravo or The Good, the Bad and the Ugly movies for instance. The players are split into two groups, one representing the good guys and the other, as you can probably guess, the bad guys. All characters have their own stats and wield their own weapons out of the 18 available ones. 6-gun Shootout, despite its very primitive presentation, took a lot of things under consideration, like line of sight, terrain features, cover and even wounds and their location. So a wound in the leg would slow character down and in the arm would impact his accuracy. You can also create your own character and modify any of the available 10 scenarios to customize your experience. 6-gun Shootout is an unusual game that's easy to learn and very enjoyable to master. A true treat to all fans of turn-based strategies that seek something more fresh than your classical wargame scenarios. Skool Daze is a school simulator. Well, not really, but could be stretched to be considered that. You play as Eric and your main task is to steal your school report out of the staff room without getting caught. It's obviously easier said than done, so you'll have to accomplish various tasks around the school before you'll be able to do just that. There are obviously other pupils at the school, and while most are unnamed, there's 3 others that have names and can be interacted with. There is also 4 teachers. If you're caught out of class or misbehaving, teachers pursue you, and when you're caught, they issue lines. When you accumulate 10,000 lines or more, the game ends with you being expelled. You can, however, also get in trouble for things that are not your fault, like being punished for sitting down on the floor when in fact you've been pushed and knocked down. So you have to also make sure that other pupils won't get you intentionally into trouble. In other words, you'll need to complete all the necessary tasks to fulfill your main goal while living your school life, attending classes when bell rings, etc. It's a unique title and one worth your attention if you've never played it. Skyfox is a sci-fi flight simulation where you can complete 15 missions that can be played at 5 difficulty levels. Story-wise, aliens invaded Earth and you're sent off to dispose of the threat. You're flying the most advanced attack fighter plane on Earth, the titular Skyfox. It is equipped with deflection shields, laser cannons, 5 guided and 5 heat-seeking missiles, and can fly at the speed of up to Mach 4. On your mission you'll encounter enemy tanks, their planes and also finally a mothership. You detect the enemies approaching in waves via radar and the long-range scanner, and have to defeat them before they get to your base. If you're close to running out of fuel, you'll have to come back to your base to refuel, so make sure to time it for the moments where you're least vulnerable. I believe I mentioned with the first Spy vs Spy game that I never liked those. It's hard to tell why, but that's the truth, and nothing changed for me with the second outing, the Island Caper. It doesn't mean that it's a bad game, just that it didn't sit well with me. All that aside, it's basically the same deal as in original, but with a different theme. This time the game is set on a desert island. And you no longer start with a fixed number of traps, but must collect raw materials to build them first. Also, you do not collect 4 items as in the first game, but 3 pieces of a missile and have to escape the island in a submarine before the volcano erupts. The game features 7 difficulty levels, which correspond to the amount of time before the eruption. The Island Caper switches earlier titles' clubs for swords for combat. So yeah, if you liked the first one, you're more than likely going to love this one. And if you didn't, it's more of the same. You're Clad, the astronaut, and you're in space. Armed with your trusty laser gun, and you have to regain control of the factory located in outer space. It was a facility used for production of robots, and now it's taken over by the evil aliens who waste no time there and keep reprogramming the robots to conquer the Earth. Do you ever wonder why there's no peaceful aliens in video games? I mean, for once they could invade us to clean the air, oceans and reduce our CO2 production by half, all the way planting parks and forests everywhere. That would be something to look forward to. Anyway, to take the factory back you have to reach the central control room. To get there, however, you have to overcome many obstacles and collect several objects. These are to be used to perform several various tasks that are crucial to complete before taking over the computer. Along the way you also find fuel and patches to help you, and make sure to collect those as Strangeloop is quite big, featuring 240 different rooms, each filled with dangers. Summer Games 2 is a multi-discipline sports simulation for up to 8 players. This time, however, most events apart from one drop the requirement for waggling the joystick, and the controls are realized in a more reasonable manner that's less expensive for the end user. Meaning you won't have to replace your joystick after just a few gaming sessions. So yeah, that's good. Anyway, there's 8 events to participate in. Triple jump, rowing, javelin throw, equestrian, high jump, fencing, cycling and kayaking. They're perhaps not most interesting of events, but as with most Epic's games, all of them are nicely animated and pretty playable. So if you have a friend or even better friends to play it with, it's an afternoon of fun. I can pretty much guarantee that. Temple of Apshai Trilogy is a graphically and musically enhanced remake of earlier Dungeon Quest series of games. So Temple of Apshai, Upper Reaches of Apshai, and Curse of Ra. Now, that's quite a lot of content for a singular package. Anyway, the game could be considered one of the earliest examples of roguelikes that were inspired by the original but complemented the underlying ideas with colorful graphics. It features hundreds of rooms to explore, different weapons and armor, and various enemies to defeat. Your character is described by 6 characteristics of intelligence, ego, constitution, intuition, strength and dexterity, and he develops and gets stronger along your adventure. I've never played it, if I'm to be honest, but after looking it up, I'm interested and I'll make sure to check it out as it looks like my cup of tea. Theater Europe is a single-player turn-based strategy game depicting hypothetical conflict between NATO and Warsaw Pact in the 80s, and you can take control of either of the sides. For Warsaw Pact, the objective is to advance with several divisions beyond the Rhine within 29 in-game days, while NATO has an opposite objective of preventing just that. It's worth keeping in mind that if you ever decide upon launching a total nuclear attack on an enemy, the computer will do the same and it will assure mutual annihilation. The game is interesting, but as far as I know, it's impossible to win, as if you're close to winning conventionally, an opposing side will launch nuclear strike. Now, if you don't respond, you'll lose, and if you do, it will result with mutual annihilation once more. I may be daft and miss something here, but correct me if I'm wrong in this assumption. I know that nuclear weapons can theoretically be disabled in the game setup, but that's sorta defeating the purpose of a full strategic simulation of conflict in the region, right? All that said, the gameplay itself is pretty fun and worth a go at least once or twice to see the gameplay develop from both sides. Hooders Wins is a commando-style vertical scrolling shoot 'em up. You're armed with rifle and grenades and have to fight your way through dozens upon dozens of enemies over 8 increasingly more difficult levels. Other than shooting enemies, you have to also rescue your comrades who are being led away. You shoot your gun with tapping on the fire button and ammo for it is endless. Grenades, however, do end up and you have to find and pick up refills in boxes along your fight, and they're thrown by holding the fire button down. You start the game with 3 lives, get an extra one at 10,000 points and another one every 20,000. After completing all 8 levels, you get a congratulations screen that brings you back to the first one again to carry on, as supposedly your backup squad of soldiers didn't make the same run you did successfully. Sad. Anyway, Hooders Wins is fun, some might say even more fun than Commando was, as it's longer and has more user-friendly controls, but that's questionable as some just love that Commando music theme. Yours truly included. So make up your own mind, but whatever you land on, in the case of which is better, remember that even if you lean towards Commando, Hooders Wins is super fun nonetheless. Same as Summer Games 2 we spoke about a few minutes ago, Winter Games is Epix's multi-discipline sports simulation, this time focusing on Winter Olympics-based events, for up to, and you guessed it right, 8 players. It features 7 events to participate in: Hot Dog, which is sorta trick skiing mixed with ski jumping, Biathlon, figure skating, ski jump, speed skating, free skating and bobsled. Now, most of Epix's sports series of games is very good, usually having an interesting mixture of great with little less fun and occasional bad events. But overall, they're very enjoyable, especially with friends. This, Winter Games, despite only having 7 events, is probably the first in which every single event is fun to compete in, even if there's a lot of skating involved. So make sure to have it somewhere in your rotation for when the friends come over to play Classic, so that it's easy to find and fire up. Yie Ar Kung-Fu is a single-player versus fighting game that originated in the arcades and was later on converted to home systems, inspired by Bruce Lee's Hong Kong martial arts films. You play as Oolong, and have to defeat numerous martial arts masters to prove that you're the best and to win the title of the Grandmaster, which may have been the case in original, but on C64 after defeating the last, the game starts from the first again, so it's more of an endurance/survival contest, rather than the competition for the title really. You have kicks and punches at your disposal and no special moves or weapons, but can jump higher than most of your enemies and have your keen mind to help you defeat the opponents. That should be enough, right? It's not for me, as I don't remember the last time I managed to complete Yie Ar, but I haven't played in a minute, so perhaps I'd be better at it today. Who knows? Zorro is the bomb. Not in the movies though, but in this game. Well, in the movies too, but in a different age-induced cringe way. Anyway, Zorro is an action-adventure game similar in its presentation and design to Bruce Lee and the Goonies, but more focused on adventuring aspects. Beautiful Senorita is kidnapped by the evil Sergeant Garcia and you have to save her. To do so, you must find 3 items: Chalice of Honor, Horseshoe of Luck and Boot of Briskness. But to be able to grab those, you'll need to utilize other items appropriately in correct spots. For instance, you must give bottle of rum to barman, who will then drink it promptly and fall on his back drunk. From then on, you can use his belly as a trampoline. And Zorro is full of little adventuring bits like that, so it's fun not only to play but also to discover. You can only carry one item at a time, so keep that in mind. Zorro, despite very basic presentation, is one of my most favorite C64 games, and I'm sure that I'm not the only one feeling this way. So, if by any odd chance you've never heard of it, it's definitely worth your time. Piracy is a game I found by coincidence. After spending a summer at my grandma's and playing Sid Meier's Pirates there on my cousin's C64 with a disk drive, I wanted the same experience on mine. Thing is, I only had a tape deck, so I was looking for a version of Pirates that would run off tape. Needless to say, I never found one. But what I did find was Piracy, a little known gem that, while not fulfilling that pirate's itch, definitely proved to be hella fun both alone against the CPU and in multiplayer. It's basically beautifully stylized in a pirate team board game, kinda similar to checkers but enhanced for replayability. The players move in turn, one after another, and each turn can either consist of moving your marines or launching one from the ship. The goal of the game is to either kill all opposing units or to destroy opposing cannon base by walking over to them. The units can only move forwards and diagonally, but always towards the enemy and can never move backwards. Keeping it all in mind, you have to carefully plan how to release your units as they all move simultaneously in the direction that you send them to. And if there happens to be a broken chain in the way, a unit is removed from the game. So, while the game is very simple and easy to learn, it requires strategic approach to master and is really fun. And with this episode ending, we're closed C64's 1985. It was easily one of the more fruitful and entertaining years for Commodore gamers, and some of the titles that released are considered absolute classics to this day. The next video in the series will be the first episode for 1986. An interesting year, given Commodore itself released its first true 16-bit machine in the form of Amiga 1000. How did it impact C64 gaming? Well, we'll learn in a week or so. So subscribe not to miss it. If you liked the video, you know what to do. If you didn't, let me know in the comments below. If you feel like helping me make the channel better, I'd appreciate Patreon sub or YouTube membership. But if you don't want to or can't do those, likes, subscribes and shares are great too. Most of all, however, I would like to take a second here and thank all of the YouTube Let's Play and playthrough creators from whose videos short bits were taken for this one as a background to my commentary. They're amazing, and thanks to their efforts, retro community can prevail for years longer and in better form than it could have otherwise. So thank you. For me though, this is all, so have a good one, and I'll see you next time. Peace.